Chad here with Eden Wellsprings. We're going to talk about the brine tank today. These are very simple, these 15 by 17 rectangular ones. And we're getting low on salt here. If you allow your unit to run out of salt, it will run through its regeneration cycles thinking that it's cleaning itself out, but it won't actually be doing it because it doesn't have enough sodium in there to strip the calcium off of the resin and the softener. So what'll happen is that you'll be getting hard water coming into the house. Now these things are pretty simple. We just use this granular kind of salt. It's naturally harvested from lake beds. You just tear off and pour in. Now, you're just going to think of this like the gas tank on your car. It does not matter how full the salt tank is. As long as you have salt in it, just like if your car has gas in it, you're good to go. You can have a low level, you can have a high level. So we just added to it. That's pretty simple. Your job is to keep up with that. On these particular units, there's not an alarm telling you the salt level. For most people, you're going to go through 1 to 2 bags of salt a month at most. So you're just going to set on your calendar every 60 days or so to check it, and that'll be more than adequate. The tank, this particular size tank, holds 5 bags of salt, so you can have a good bit of time. Now, if you've allowed your salt tank to run out of salt and you're getting hard water, you can manually regenerate the softener right now. You'll notice that the computer is asleep. It's not backlit. You can hit any button on the screen and the backlighting comes on with that blue. You notice it's scrolling through a number of different things on the screen. You don't have to worry about all of that. But the Regen button over here, the way this works, if you hit it one time, you'll notice up here it will scroll and change and say Regen today. What we did is we hit a trigger that's going to cause the unit to go through a regeneration at its set time, usually about 2 a.m. Or we can cause it to start its regeneration cycle right now by pressing and holding the Regen button for a few seconds until it makes noise. Now it has begun the regeneration process, which will continue for about an hour, depending on the size of the unit. If you're ever into this and you need to advance the cycles, you don't want it to run through a whole, the entire regeneration, you can advance it by hitting Regen again. Right now it's on the backwash cycle. If we hit the button, it's going to move to its next cycle, which is the brine draw cycle. We can go ahead and keep going through each of these, heading to the rinse cycle, to the fill cycle, and on this particular programming, that is the last of the cycles. So when you hear that motor quit running, you can advance it again. And we would have gotten out of the whole thing. If you were wanting to run the full regeneration, you would have just hit that button, hold it in, and let it run through the entire thing. You don't need to go through. We sometimes are testing out individual parts of the cycle, and so it's nice to be able to forward to the next one. That's pretty much it on your salt tank. In terms of the kinds of salt that you might use, we typically recommend to buy the least expensive thing that the store sells. That's almost always this granular kind of salt. You'll also find the big fat pellets. Those are fine to use too. It's like going to different gas stations, where you go to Texaco or something, and then you'll go to the QT. It's all right to mix and to blend the salts just like you do with fuel. There are pros and cons to the different kinds of salt. This particular kind of salt has a little bit more tendency of making salt bridges, which you may have to break up. But it has less of a tendency of making that mush at the bottom of the tank, which you get over years. The pellet kind of stuff is notorious for doing that. So sometimes you have to clean out the salt tank because of all that stuff that's just gotten into the bottom of them. The better salt tanks like ours all have a bridge down at the bottom, this deck, that holds the salt off of the bottom of the tank. It helps to prevent that problem with the mush being made. But many salt tanks on the market just simply have the brine well, which is this round portion that goes all the way. It goes all the way down to the bottom, and the salt is all the way at the bottom. So when you have that mush problem in a tank that doesn't have a lower deck, it can jam up the little float valve at the bottom and make the whole thing inoperable. So that really is the primary reason that we as service techs at Eden Wellsprings recommend the granular salt. It is a little less expensive, and it just causes less problems for us at least. Anyway, that's everything for salt tanks.